What's something you confessed to your partner that ended your relationship?
Experience 1. Not me, but someone I know was finally told that her husband was faking his English heritage, background/upbringing in England, and fake accent. Dude kept it up for years and eventually admitted that it was all a lie and that he grew up on the West Coast. Experience 2. Didn't happen to me, but a guy I knew married a girl I knew, both a bit older than me, and everything seemed great. However, they were at a party, and someone mentioned that the guy used to smoke weed in high school. He admitted it and didn't think it was a big deal. She divorced him a month later, claiming that she couldn't forgive him for smoking weed. Experience 3. My friend was telling us that she threatened to kill herself if her boyfriend broke up with her. I said this was toxic and that I wouldn't kill myself if my boyfriend broke up with me. My boyfriend broke up with me the next day because apparently not wanting to kill myself meant that my love for him was not true. 7th grade is freaking screwed. I'm a middle school teacher now, and whenever I feel shocked by the behaviors I see, I just think back to this. Experience 4. I believe it was I love you. Also, because this has kind of blown up, I wanted to clarify something. She was absolutely right to leave. I was young and selfish and didn't have a firm grasp on boundaries. She was in an emotionally vulnerable place and was dealing with unresolved trauma from some past relationships and her own parents' divorce. I knew all of this. I knew she feared commitment. I knew she wasn't in a place to reciprocate. I said it anyway. It was a crappy thing for me to do. I didn't recognize it at the time, but it was effectively an attempt to push her into being as invested in the relationship as I was. It was unfair. We're both happily married now, to other people, which I hope is obvious. I wish her nothing but the best in life. Experience 5. That I had been R-worded over a decade prior. She started treating me like a glass doll after that. All she could see was damaged goods. Who cares that I'd already done the recovery work? Nope. Damaged goods are no longer interested. Experience 6. I said while crying because he got angry with me at a restaurant that I am sometimes afraid to tell you how I feel because I'm afraid of how you'll react. And he said, well, that's freaking pathetic. Experience 7. My partner had a habit of starting a convo by asking how I felt about something, and then would criticize me for feeling what I felt. It always ended up being a debate about why I felt the way I did. It was never okay for me to feel sad, worried, scared, etc. Over time, I started to feel anxious when he'd ask questions and purposely responded vaguely, or just straight up said that I didn't feel comfortable sharing, which would incite anger or more judgment. Eventually, my response became exactly that. A teary I don't know if I want to share because I'm worried about how you'll react/respond, and his responses were along the lines of that stupid you're ridiculous, don't be an idiot, seriously? I don't know if it's because I got so used to it, or from being distracted by all the other bigger things in the relationship, but for some reason, I didn't even notice that this was another bad thing until reading this comment. It was just normal. Experience 8. True story. I confessed that I wanted to do more for her. I thought I was neglecting her and working too much. That next week, she sat me down and told me that I was threatening her independence and that she needed a week to think about us. The week after that, she broke up with me. Experience 9. I told her my work schedule. A lot of people don't seem to be okay with a 4-on 4-off schedule because it's an 8-day week. One month I'm working weekends, the next month I'm off on the weekend. The ones where I'm working, they don't seem to get enough attention on their days off. Experience 10. Broke down crying during a more realistic war movie. She told me to suck it up. After she confronted me for drinking too much, I finally sought VA disability. Diagnosed with depression, PTSD, anxiety, among other things. Bills started pouring in and I told her we couldn't afford certain luxury things because I was the sole breadwinner. I said I felt like I was drowning and my head was slowly slipping under the surface. She told me to figure it out. So, I did. We divorced. And I'm much more happy and no longer on the train of be a man and tighten your bootstraps. I got help and know that it's okay to do so. Experience 11. That I didn't like the person they became when they hung out with one specific friend. They became mean, petty, rude, and overly critical of everything while demanding I chauffeur them around. Ex didn't drive, and would get drunk, face roll on the ground drunk and say the ugliest things. I was shocked to see this total stranger in my partner's body, so I told them I now understood why some people asked their partners to not see certain friends anymore. Apparently, this made me abusive, claiming I was isolating them. They were cheating on me with that friend. Then ended up cheating on that person, burning through multiple roommates, including 2 different former friends and a vague acquaintance. All of them apologized for believing crap said about me like WTF, and owing 2 of them thousands of dollars in damages. I feel like I dodged a massive cannonball. Experience 12. That I wasn't okay with her going around telling everyone we were going to get married and move to Nashville when I didn't say that, or that I wanted her to be the mother to my children when I didn't say that, or I wanted to put a ring on her finger, which no the hell I did not. Experience 13. I told her she was an asshole when she was drunk, and that I barely recognized her anymore because of her drinking. She replied,
"Why don't you just hit me?"
She was trying to push off my stresses and grievances over her drinking as me being the abusive one when she was just a terrible, manipulative, narcissistic asshole when she drank. It ended about 3 days later after I left her at my friend's house after she got absolutely blasted when we agreed we wouldn't be drinking that night. Experience 14. Not me, but my ex confessed to me that he'd put a tracker on my phone. He only admitted it once my friend started pointing out how he would always show up wherever they were if I was with them. Before you'll come at me, they were mutual friends, and he would be invited, but come up with some excuse not to go. Apparently, he was watching us, and the times we saw him were only the times we'd caught him. He'd follow us basically every time. Needless to say, I broke up with him immediately. Experience 15. He asked me how my depression started. I told him I had been R-worded. He didn't say anything for a long time, and when I asked him what he was thinking, he replied, "How do I know I can believe you?" Pretty much all went downhill from there. Experience 16. I confessed I had been R-worded when I was 16, and he said that he couldn't love someone like me. Which honestly was my worst fear and something I already told myself, that I couldn't be loved. But then I became an adult and realized that I do deserve happiness and love, and any man who holds another man's selfish and foul actions against the victim isn't a man. I'm happily in a relationship now. Experience 17. Had a partner that kept pushing and pushing and pushing me to tell him about my past. I insisted that I didn't want to, because every single time I would open up to somebody, they just wouldn't take it well. He just kept pushing and insisting that he would never do something like that. So, I told him about my history of being SA at 15 and how I've been struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts for the last 6 years. He hit me with,
"Why the hell would you ever tell me that? I didn't want to know that."
Experience 18. That I realized I did not love her enough to be happy spending the rest of my life with her. We go together because the circumstances made so much sense, but I'm afraid I never truly loved her. I was only comfortable and feeling loved. I treated her as well as I could, but deep down I knew I would never be able to give back what she gave me. I still feel the guilt of breaking someone's heart for something she'll likely never fully understand, therefore will not feel fair to her. Experience 19. That I was joining the Navy. I needed to get out of my hometown and state. She wanted to stay and become a teacher. I have never hated us or our relationship. It was our first relationship. I met up with her recently. She is now married to a hell of a guy and has a kid on the way. He's also really into Warhammer, and we have a game going on in a couple of days. Experience 20. She found out I had health problems with my heart. Had a major heart attack and had to stay in the hospital for a few days. Got a little better and the hospital got overcrowded, so I got sent home cause my girlfriend would be there to watch for any signs of a problem. Well, I had another heart attack and she left in the middle of it. Just said.
I can't.
Experience 21. That I didn't believe the Bible was a scientific fact. I didn't realize her family was hardcore fundamentalist Christians who spoke in tongues and believed everything in the Bible was historical and scientific fact. Broke up with me on the spot. We'd only been dating a couple of weeks, and this was the first time religion had come up somehow. We stayed friendly but never went out again. 2 years later she was dating a woman and was abandoned by her family. 3 years after that she was married to that woman and transitioning to becoming a man. He has been happily married to the woman for about 10 years now. Hasn't had any contact with his family since then. Experience 22. That I had depression. I was crying in front of her. She went through 2 bouts of depression during our relationship, so I thought she could help. She called the cops on me. Got me thrown out of the house, only deeded in her name. We were married for years, seemed like it was safe and steady. I just never asked for help before then. She said she never wanted to talk to me again. Then she refused to divorce me. So, I divorced her. Life's weird. Experience 23. I confessed to my former girlfriend of 3 years that I have a history of self-harm and self-deletion ideation and have in the past attempted to end my own life several times. That I had been in therapy for many years now and working on keeping myself alive and happy for as long of a life as I can have, and she said she didn't want a project instead of a partner, and a couple of days later told me she couldn't be with me because of my emotional instability. Which is weird because I was the most stable I had been in 5 years. I hadn't attempted anything in the whole time I knew her. I just thought she should know of my history of it. And it broke us apart. But as my therapist always used to say,
If something can be broken by the truth, it should be.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's stories. If you want to see more stories, check out these videos or check the links in the description for more videos. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And ring that notification bell.